to Bear Lifestyle, the podcast where we talk about taboo topics to make them normal and acceptable. I'm your host, Simona Spark, and I'm so happy that you are here. We are about to get naked by stripping away insecurities, judgments, and all kinds of limitations to reveal the essence of who we really are, Bear. Bold, authentic, radical, express. Let's go. We are here, and today I'm not alone. Da, 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 da. So I'm here with, you see on the name saying Cleo Box, but her name is Jade. Welcome, Jade.
Thank you. Hello. Cleo and Jada, very happy to be
Yes.
here.
Thank you for joining us. So I always start with celebrations. I'm glad that you have a glass of beverage. I'm
Nice.
celebrating myself, I'm celebrating my guest, and I'm celebrating everyone that listens and watches this podcast. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
I have 3 ginger tea.
Oh,
I don't know what ginger are, but that's what I'm drinking. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Turkish coffee with ghee and cardamom.
Yummy. So it's kind of give you a boost and also calm you down in the same time.
Yeah, it's gonna just stabilize my blood sugar.
Oh man, so we don't know where we go, as usually goes here. We're just gonna have a raw conversation. Once again, I bring you guys a guest that is very comfortable in her own skin. She went through a whole process of healing to get to who she is. And as we could talk about so many topics, we'll try to focus on like de-shaming the sex and specifically sex workers. And then we'll see how much we stay on that and how much we deviate. I mean, we never deviate. We always going to talk what we need to talk about.
Exactly. We like flow.
Yeah, to start with, so what is your connection with the sex workers? I know you have some friends in the space, but do you want to walk us through the process, how you get to do this work? Because you do also do a lot of work in a sex space. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. My kind of journey, I guess, into the sex industry per se, would have been about 2 years ago. So my stepping into, I guess you'd call me more of a sensual masseuse when I first started this work, which led me into the tantra, blending in more modalities. And I guess tantra for me has always been providing like a really deep spiritual healing container for someone. And the bigger thing is that this style of work is in the sex industry. And the sex industry, people view the sex industry. I mean, again, I can't project what other people are saying, but everyone has been programmed, and we've been given stories from social media and the society of like what sex work is, or it's the oldest job in the world.
We've been programmed to judge.
Yes, for
this
sure.
work.
Yeah. So I think what I was sharing with you before, part of my work is sex work. It's probably about 10% of my business. I'm not doing it full time. I operate, I guess, in a different way with regards to just, I choose who I take on with regards to clients, and it's like a coaching like client, as you would know, right? It has to be an energetic alignment. Personally, that's what it's about for me. But in terms of just coming back to your question and me deviating off that, the sex workers that I have met, I feel there's a balance of women and men that are in this work for different reasons, right? I think the big thing is yes, this work can be incredibly profitable. You can make a lot of money. And when we do anything for money, just for the money, we start losing the joy and the passion and the love for something, right? So I'm not denying, I do see a lot of women in this space, mainly women. I've had some interactions with men, with male escorts as well, but that are only in it for the money. so they're not actually lit up and alive and in love with it. And then this whole piece of the shame, right? Like again, this is a choice, obviously, of being out, and it's taken me a year and a good chunk of doing a lot of work on myself to be in a place where I have personally accepted myself in this role, right? That's where it had to come from for me to be out and sharing with the world, essentially. But yeah, I feel like there's this shame that a lot of sex workers have around, you know, opening up around, like, this is what I'm doing, this is the line of work that I'm doing, worried about how family are going to take it, how friends are going to take it, you know, because it is such a judged, looked down upon world, right? It's like the bottom of the barrel kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I get it, I understand that. But I think for someone that hasn't entered into this line of work, whether you're like, let's just look at the word sex worker, right? Sex worker is not just an escort. Sex worker, I see sex workers as someone on OnlyFans, having an OnlyFans account, sensual massage, tantric masseuse, right? Where, like, if the tantric masseuse is genital kind of focused, like, sex worker is such a, you know, it can be such a heavy word that triggers a lot for people. But I look at, sex workers are very broad, like, it covers a broad array of things. It's not just an escort, a prostitute, whatever label you want to put on that style of, you know, work.
That's it. That's the word label. I know that I'm in the work, in the mission, if you wish, of just removing labels from everywhere, right? I became a sex worker. I was seeing this man was, you know, a date, and I was telling what I do, because I do work in the sex space, how to increase our sexuality, how to increase our pleasure, how to make friends with our parts of us that want to be expressed to BDSM and such. It's like, oh, so you're a sex worker. And I was the first to be triggered. So like, then defense, like, no, I'm not. Right. And then I caught myself, that conditioning, like, that's such a wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then I have another instant not long ago, and that was this man, a date, and it was like, oh my God, you changed me. And I make very light statement. I just threw it there. I'm like, well, you know, through sex, I'm like, well, it is my job, right? And then it's like, so you take on clients through, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not having sex with my clients. So again, I was like defensive, and I caught myself, right? And I'm like, that judgment, because it's like, I don't need to explain anybody or whatever people think, but I just need to look in and recognize to myself what I'm so open, so, you know, inclusive and all that, to catch that part of myself that was still very defensive, like, no, I'm not doing that. You know, or I will never judge anybody for that type of work. You know what I mean? So I'm just sharing this because I want to believe there are a lot of people in our audience, they're open-minded and they're embracing all the things. And yet just to pay attention how we are the one living with that judgment. And that's no difference that the sex worker himself, right? That is like, I'm doing this for whatever reason, as you said, and just to look like, am I having this judgment about myself before even somebody else judge what I'm doing?
Yeah, isn't it fascinating, right? Just in your own experience and what you've shared around, like, the how subtle shame can come up, or just the noting of, you know, being triggered by, you know, the sex worker word, because, like, sex worker, like, ugh, like, you know, like, what, like, you know, and then it's like, oh, let's, you know, let's go into this and be like, okay, this is interesting, where can I go internally and sit and inquire?
To clean that up, to heal that, because I'm the one to say, like, they're freaking amazing. It's such a powerful place to be in. I'm choosing who and what for how much and such. That's a powerful space to be in, right?
100%. I mean, yeah, the choosing, right? When you're choosing this line of work, of course, like, it opens up such a huge plethora, in my, obviously, experience and speaking from my lens of the world. But it is and can be an incredibly empowering and healing line of work, right? And again, I feel like our intentions are everything, you know, our come from, why we're doing something, like the deeper reasons behind it. But yeah, shame is a huge, I think, the biggest emotion that's attached to just sex in general, like conversations about sex, and it's this deconstructing and deconditioning that we all have this beautiful opportunity of really unraveling. Like I feel that, I think I wrote a post about this, but like where you have shame, because shame is like the like a really, you know, it's a big heavy emotion. It's on like the lowest kind of, on the vibration of emotion, like, you know, the energy, how we feel in our body. It's that belief that we feel like there's something wrong and bad about us when we experience shame. And through my journey and through my experience with the clients I've worked with, I really feel like shame holds the greatest place of transformation as well, because it's an emotion that so many people don't want to face and feel into, because it's big. It's big. But like this is the journey of healing, right? We've got to feel to heal, and we've got to be in safe containers when we move into this piece around like noting, you know, where in our life or experiences we have shame around, but where shame actually lives in our body, because this is the journey of the somatic. And I guess I feel like that's a big part of my work, of working with the body, right? The somatics of our body, and knowing that shame is an emotion that is within our cells, our fascia, and we've got to have that, you know, the mind and body approach to work through, and what it wants. It just wants to be witnessed and seen.
Absolutely. I often talk, and I think it was previous episode, I talk about the three major emotion, shame, guilt, and fear. And fear is very easy to come to the surface because everybody gets it. And it's like, oh, I'm afraid of that. But underneath of that, it's either shame or guilt. And when it comes to accepting our bodies, accepting our sexuality, like accepting our body and then accepting sexuality, at least in my work, I kind of go on those, like, you know, you go from outside in, but then the main goal is expressing our sexuality. And that's where most stop with healing because it requires to go deeper into those roots of shame and guilt. Like, as you're saying, but underneath of that is the magic, the sex magic. It's underneath of that. Underneath of that.
And I think it's so beautiful. Like, it's so true, right? I feel like, you know, our healing journey is going to be different for every single one of us, right? And we all come to our healing journey at the time that is right, wherever we're at. But I feel as well, like the sexuality piece, as you said, because there's so many deep pieces and, you know, ancestral trauma and, you know, again, in some people's experience, abuse, and the density of what we hold in our body. It's almost like, you know, the sexuality space, like this comes up again when you're ready for it and you've potentially done some work prior. I feel if you jump straight into this work, it's just going to potentially just, you know, blow you open in maybe not a constructive way, right? So it's about having that really just gentle and compassionate approach to yourself. If you are maybe someone out there listening and being like, you know, I'm wanting to dive into this, it's like, creating that discernment for yourself and noting that, like, this is a really, really gentle self-inquiry, and it's a lifelong journey. You know, I'm still on it just because I work in the space as yourself, right? We're constantly learning and, you know, being gifted with our triggers / activations on a daily basis. And
right. I mean, we allow life to happen, and as long as we allow life to happen, we always going to be redirecting and shifting and changing and introspecting and more and let's do some more. So it's a lifetime journey. I appreciate that you mentioned the people that they're listening to just be gentle and honor their own process, their own speed. And I do want to acknowledge those that are listening to this, and this might be as much as you need to do today, because if this meets you where you are and it's triggering enough to just stop you on a track and say, hey, let me look at this pieces, like, this is great, you don't need to do more than this until you're ready to take the next step. So, and for those of you that are ready for the next step, open the show notes, and you already know what's happening if you've been here before. So the dungeons are open, King's Dungeon, Queen's Dungeons. And those of you that access the dungeons from this particular episode, you get to have a discount. And the code will be Jade. I will put it in the show notes. But everybody that joined those spaces from this podcast, we're just gonna celebrate our guests here and give the whole audience an extra discount to those spaces, which also are spaces of self-exploration that you get to do it on your own time, on your own pace, behind the closed door, whatever makes you feel safe, as you were mentioned earlier, requires a safe container, requires the right facilitator to walk you through the process, right? So that was my plug for this episode. Yes, 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 yes. Because look, I do believe, and I said it before in other public spaces, is like this component, we never learn it. And we didn't have a class in school about like at least a year, not just somebody coming from outside for 1 hour, to learn about sex, to learn about masturbation, to learn about orgasm, to learn about BDSM, to learn about relationships. The whole life is about relationship, and we never learn about it. So we are just like kind of like released into the world. You 18, you an adult, go figure it out with other people that have no foundation, right?
Yeah. Sex ed is Pornhub. I think that's where so many people get their educational, understanding of what sex, what we think sex looks like. And then obviously porn has so many, damaging impacts in so many different ways, and like, don't get me wrong, I don't shame or judge porn. It's more so how we're using it. If it's that whole need of, I need it to get off, or there's obviously, go down an absolute rabbit hole with porn. But coming back to just, where do we learn about this? Like the sex ed in school in New Zealand, like, it was awful. And I think that was one of the things that, I'm so grateful for, was my incredibly liberal hippie parents that were incredibly like sexually out there. I grew up in a very sex positive family where I feel like my dad jokes, I was like, I was raised by sex crazed parents, like, topics about sex, about masturbation were had. I was kind of reminded it, like I remember, like it was like 8 or 9, like masturbation is good, like do it,
was normalized, was not a shame or finger pointed or whatever. I mean, God, you mentioned New Zealand. I didn't even tell people you're from New Zealand, but you live in Australia now, right?
Correct. I'm in Melbourne. Yeah.
Melbourne.
But the accent is Kiwi.
And yet I understand every single word you say, which was not the case when I live in New Zealand. So when I moved to New Zealand, so I was like late 40s when I moved there. And no, I was 40 actually. Anyway, point being that I was surprised when I bought the first newspaper, right? They're like those ads of sex workers. And then I found out that prostitution is legal in New Zealand. And my first reaction, I was like, what? Right? And then I started doing some research, and it really opened my mind. It opened my light. It opened my mind. Like, why should not be this regulated? Why should not be this legalized? Why is this, so I kind of started looking into more and more, but again, in hiding, behind the closed door. I want to learn more. I want to open my mind, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I always want to honor, regardless of people that are directly in contact with me, clients or such, or on this platform with listeners, is you are where you are, and where you are is great. And whatever you do, one little tiny step, you are on that path, and it's amazing. It doesn't require everything to be shifted and changed in one day. So sex positivity, being raised with sex is normal. It's a physiological need. It's another form of expression, self-love and loving others. So why we do not teach this in school? That's my question.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, just the shame that is built in to society around like this. Like, we're all here because of sex. We are
Right.
here because of mum and dad. Yo, high five. Thanks, mum and dad. You know, everyone is born from sex. So this natural thing, this gift that we have as human beings, you know, it's a natural thing. Like, pleasure is everyone's birthright. And it's a journey and a lifetime of unraveling, like, I guess, you know, looking at maybe religious backgrounds. And I know a lot of people that have been in the church and that navigation through obviously certain cultures shaming sex, or like, you know, you're waiting for marriage before you have sex, or you'll what else have I heard, masturbation, you'll go blind. You know, be the good girl, and like, you know, just that whole boxing us in to need to be a certain way in order to be worthy of sex, or I need to look a certain way, or, you know, there's just so many. Just again, it's coming back to the piece around just the shame, like, you know, where we were talking at the beginning, like, it is I think that's such a really powerful place to really be working on, of unraveling just the shame that we all hold on some level. But again, it's such a beautiful opportunity to step into living more connected, sexually alive fucking lives, because our sexual energy, you know, sex is part of our aliveness, right? And when we're suppressing this part of us, like we suppress our aliveness as human beings. And isn't it?
We are sexual beings.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so I could take this in 17 different directions.
Mm-hmm. What way is calling you?
Right? I mean, especially with you. I could talk about, we could take this in angles. But you know what? We could always come back and talk some more. So I like to keep the episodes as short as possible. So let's do our best to kind of like wrap it up. Well, I will put in the description in the show notes, of course, you know, the links where people could go and stalk you and follow your work. Tell us a little bit more about your work.
Yeah, thank you. My biggest passion, I feel, in this space is really guiding men and women to reclaim their pleasure, to reconnect with their body.
I like we are doing the same work, but yet we are doing it differently.
And
different,
this is
beautiful. This is.
Isn't it beautiful? Like, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. Like, this is the gift that we all have, you know. There's someone's doing the same thing, but you're bringing in, you're creating it in your own way, your own energetics, your own life journey. And I mean, I think for me, awakening people to realize and uncover like the capacity of their body to experience pleasure. And as well, like there's, you know, I blend. I mean, I've got a huge, varied background, I guess. It's been, you know, stemmed in the health and wellness industry it was about 10 years as a personal trainer. Then we met through the holistic health coaching, which led me into NLP kind of mindset work. And then I stepped into the breath work and embodiment facilitation, which led me into Tantra, which is what I've kind of been in for the last year and a half. So I'd say my work is really about, as definitely more around like the kind of Tantra space. And for me, there's so many different ways that, you know, Tantra is taught. And I feel my work is, again, blending in elements of Tantra to help people really reconnect and create a deeper, intimate relationship with themselves, right? This whole intimacy, which, you know, breaking it down, the word intimacy of into me, I see. And, you know, in order to create better relationships, have deeper sex, have more pleasure, you know, multiple orgasms, squirting, all of it, it's like, we've got to know ourselves, right? We can't expect a lover or our partner to do it all if we don't know what we like, what we enjoy. So this is a big space with my work of men and women coming to me to be able to explore their body, their sexuality with me, and also unravel parts of their past that has potentially, you know, caused pain. You know, I've worked with women with sexual abuse and men that have, you know, had a plethora of, really difficult experiences with relationships. And a lot of the work I do with men in the Tantra space is really about helping men harness their sexual energy and learn to last longer and experience full body energetic orgasms, but really come into a place of opening themselves up to really connect and surrender. And, you know, it's like incorporating their sexual energy, their eros, like with their heart, right? Actually integrating the two, because there's, for all of us, right? For women and for men, like we have our sex, right? Our yoni, our lingam, and the correlation, the connection between our sex and our heart is so profound, right? When we're bringing intention with our eros, our sexual energy, and moving this into our heart, like, oh my God, it just opens up a complete this universe of healing, of reclamation, of just like remembering our fucking God, our goddess, like sex, orgasm. For me, it connects us to God, you know? And yeah, this is what I feel. This work, like for me, it's always been about healing. I've been on a healing journey since I met you. But just to close on your question, like for me, that's my biggest intention with this work of creating a space, a safe, non-judgmental space for people to heal in whatever capacity that looks like for them. And to recreate a new empowered story around how they see themselves and their body and their sexuality, right? Because it's unique to everyone. Absolutely. You know, that's I think a big part of this journey, right? Coming back to our authentic selves and just being like, there's only one of me, and you know.
I'm very grateful for your work, and I think we need more people in this space to do this work. You know, everybody with their own print, of course. And I'm listening to you talking, and I'm like, this is the work that I'm in. This is what I'm doing. And it's like, oh, we need more people like this. And I think, and it does require the healing, right? In order to be able to hold the space for another human to go through it. Never ever imagine, not even 3 years ago, that I'm going to be doing this work when I just discovered, you know, like being a survivor of human trafficking. Like that took healing that I didn't even imagine that is required or it's possible or I have to ever go through, right? But to get into a space where I tell the people all the time, I'm the guinea pig of my work. If I could take myself from that ditch, from that hole into here, there is no such a thing. I cannot hold the space for another person, right? Because as you say, like people talk, and I like to see there's more like self-love and self-love. Yeah, but what we do, we are taking even deeper. Like, let's go to the intimacy. Let's go to accessing your pleasure in a way that you've never done it before. And for me, is like all the healing that I learned from just in this work for the past 6 years now is to say, I'm just going to drop the idea that healing hurts, and I'm going to move the healing in this space where I actually get to heal through pleasure. And that's the thing. Whatever trauma, whatever pain, sexual or not, we get to access those points with your own power, with your own intimacy, with your own pleasure, and transmute it through healing, and just enjoy the journey of healing. And then from there, mother, right?
The rewiring, of
That's something very valuable that I want to touch on, just in case somebody skipped over when you say it's just connecting with the heart. That's what we did not learn, because you mentioned porn earlier. It's like we learn to connect with our mind. And then here you are, you have sex with the person and you see them traveling in a la la land, into a porn land, into imagination, into whatever. Like, hey, come back here. Drop into your heart, drop into your body. And then allow that pleasure to go all the way into your body beyond genitalia. Like those are just a little part of your body. We have so much more to
Exactly.
pleasure with.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. It's presence, right? It's like you can feel me when I'm talking to you here, and all my energy and attention is right here. And if I'm talking and I'm like, yeah, I mean, blah blah blah, like, you know, my energy is elsewhere. This is such a huge thing, I feel, of intimacy, and also of tantra. But when, in order to be present, like with ourselves and another, it can be really fucking vulnerable, right? Because to truly be present in our bodies, we're actually connecting with what's actually happening in our system. And a lot of the time, you know, everyone's suppressing or pushing stuff down. So to be actually present with another, it's like, ooh, like there's so much stuff here. And that's the beauty of what this work opens up for, right? Because without, we cannot create intimacy without vulnerability, right?
You also mentioned of like you have to take responsibility for your own pleasure. I know I told a client a few days ago, she was like, it's just, I can't have an orgasm with my husband. And I'm like, well, your orgasm is not your husband's responsibility. And she was like, what? And it was a whole conversation, right? But you said it beautifully. It's like you need to know where your pleasure is, where you hold it, how you move it, instead of putting that responsibility on your partners, because we don't read minds. I don't. Might be some people that do, but I don't.
Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful just reminder for everyone listening. And again, like, you know, it's something I have on my kind of it's like my non-negotiables kind of thing. But men and women, whether or not you're in a relationship or you're single, creating a pleasure practice with yourself, which is just creating a space where you're connecting with your body, with your sensuality, with your energy, using elements, you know, of breath and sound, but letting go of this need to come to orgasm, because we put so much pressure, this whole like performance thing, right? I need to come, I need to make my partner come. If I don't make my partner come, then I've failed, I'm not a good lover. And then all the unworthiness kind of piece comes up. Yeah, men and women, right? We're so different in how our bodies open and get aroused. And, you know, for a lot of men, and I guess, you know, relating on just my clients, men have kind of been, if they, you know, can relate to just the whole porn watching, or like, you know, you're, you know, masturbating, and it's like you're having to kind of, they're wired to be sprinters, like, you know, getting there quick, or someone's going to come and catch me kind of thing. So a lot of my clients have been like rewiring that. And for women, right, it's more so really like owning and reclaiming our pleasure. So women that maybe struggle with actually being connected to their pussy, to their yoni, what it's really about is about creating like safety in our bodies first. Because if we don't feel safe in our bodies, we can't open to surrender to orgasm, right? And this is where this powerful work of, you know, again, regulation system, nervous system work is so profound when it comes to, especially just talking to the women out there that are maybe desiring to be more connected to their pleasure, to really open up to the capacity of the gift of what their body and yoni holds.
To the magic,
the magic
there to be revealed, right? So again, as a reminder for those that are listening to this point, like dungeons, that's what you get there. They're like pleasure practices. They're, let me think, 12 for the men and 14 for the women.
Woo!
Yes. And my new setting is like, if you have a morning routine to drink your coffee, or you have a morning practice to meditate, or a daily day to practice to go to the gym, you should also have a daily pleasure practice, because sexual health is not less important than any part of our well-being. And that's what I'm going to advocate for. And I know that you with me.
Here for it. Here for it. I love that.
All right. So maybe we wrap it now. 20 minutes after we wrap it.
Yes.
Well, again, thank you so much for being so open, vulnerable, and transparent with us. And I personally want to thank you as a colleague for the work that you do. on the other side of the world. But hey, thank you, internet, because we get to connect and we get to help anybody that is ready to, with whatever way they are on their journey. And again, open the show notes. If you join the dungeons from this episode, you're gonna have the code Jade, and you're gonna have an extra discount. And then you have her links to go cyber stalk her and follow her and subscribe and do all the things.
Amazing.
Close us. How do you want to close us, Miss Cleo Box?
Cleo is my higher, sexiest self. Just for anyone out there that is maybe feeling curious to step into this space of diving into their own sexuality or opening up to the absolute wonders and magic that this space holds. Trust that you're exactly like where you are, like trust that you're exactly where you need to be right now, and just to follow like your curiosity in this space, because I feel curiosity is such a powerful thing that a lot of the time we don't lean into. And I think when it comes to exploring anything different or trying a new experience, especially in the sexuality space, like we've got to get a little bit uncomfortable. Trying anything new is scary. So obviously always ensuring that you're choosing practitioners or people that you feel safe and can trust. But follow your curiosity and get a little bit uncomfortable, and know that this is just such a beautiful space of magic and reclamation and remembrance of the goddess that you are at your core.
Yay! Thank you so much. Let's cheers to that. I mean, I started with satisfied and curious, so let's add more curiosity.
Curiosity.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.
And this is where we landed. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure you leave me a review to let me know. For more bear experiences, please go to simonaspark.com/bear and follow us on Instagram at Simona Spark World. I can't wait to have you back. Until then, be bear, bold, authentic, radical, expressed. See you next time.